I'm hopping back in with this video. So I just want to say that in this short series that I'm making right now, I started off a little bit tongue-in-cheek, and I didn't mean to neither mock animals, make sexual innuendos towards animals, or be flippant around things like serial killing or even the victimization of children, where I'm referencing the actual historical fact of the renowned Jeffrey Dahmer actually murdering and assaulting children, and actually having an opportunity to do so twice, because I think that one of his victims, who were children, had actually escaped his grasp, his clutches, and was returned to him by an actual law enforcement officer, and what type of privilege he would have for that. So with my appearance, I can't even get a DoorDash. I can't even get a DoorDash off of someone to be delivered, as I have that person in my phone, without somebody vetting and making damn sure that I confirm that, because of the off chance that this sketchy looking fool with braids and would run off with a DoorDash, even though he's getting tipped for it. But then, on one hand, but then you have Jeffrey Dahmer, who can actually have a child that he's in the process of victimizing, escape, and then be returned to him to further murder that child, and then go down in history as an infamous but somehow a little bit respected and revered serial killer, who would actually have the gall to get away with murder over a period of time. So I'm just pointing out that in a society, we have a little bit of ambivalence, and actually, frankly, contradiction in terms of what's acceptable, what's not, what's good, what's bad. And I think that there's I actually got that. That's not my entire original thought, because I was watching a podcast with Joe Rogan a long time ago, and Joe Rogan was talking about, if you look at the value in aesthetics, like even within music, it's society in general, but within music, is that, okay, so it's cool to say that, but it's blasphemy to say that over there. Or it's not cool to say that, but you can actually say that, and you can say it in front of 1 million people on stage, and maybe even go on a talk show talking like that, or having an album like that, and it's rock and roll. So if you were actually to appreciate the real nuances of these contradictions, you could understand a lot. So that's all I'm pointing out, the contradiction of dogs walking, of canines walking naked, but also getting attention and time with human beings that some human beings also don't get. And you actually more so don't see starving animals in general, domesticated animals, as you see starving human beings. And some of people's starvingness is also a function of being domesticated and being stripped of our instincts coming through education. But so, and it's all just, that's my only referencing of the animals in that case. It's just the contradiction that you do have an animal walking naked, and that's okay. And also sometimes I think animals actually get more respect than certain human beings. That somehow you take an animal, right, and people would have a certain amount of respect for an animal, but that animal is actually only 2 years old. So in dog years, that might actually be older, but it's actually been 2 years since that animal has been born, but it's actually a large animal now, and people are respecting that and having respect around that animal, almost as though it had standing as a human being. But then you take a human being who's now in their latter point of 30s and whatnot, and sometimes they actually get viewed like as a child or a boy. But that's just to show some of the what's profound in our society. And then also you have different people who are some of the kindest people, gentlest people, also learned people and enlightened people, and they are marginalized and given ignoble titles that they must pay for. They must pay for they must pay for the diagnosis, whatever. I don't know how much doctors get paid an hour, but a lot of people are not actually doctors. People who are medical professionals, but even you could say maybe some people with even MDs behind their name are not doctors in the truest sense of that word, to my taste, because a doctor is an artist, not a scientist, in my taste. That I got that from Nicholas Taleb, saying that the healing arts, not sciences in itself, because with science as exact as sciences are, you always have a gray area in science. So this study says that this amount of people surveyed had this reaction, but there's actually a little bit of gray area in all this science stuff, because it's not as spot on as you would think. But art might get it a little bit closer. If you're a real artist, you would have left someone the fuck alone in the first place and not been fucking with them. If you were being an artist, and I think you get more done by prevention and respect. Is healing goes. But a lot of people who are trying to help us are trying to do are they. So I was saying to someone, you can imagine, if so I think now part of, and this is also where I'm going, is that, so one of the reasons that it's not appropriate to be disrespectful and mock or animals or children or even men and women as a man, I'm speaking as a man, is because sometimes you forget the actual bearing of a man and what a man is. A lot of us really forget what it is to be a man, but it can come out at a certain point. And when a man is being a man, is acting like a man and having the agency and influence of a man, and the scope of activity of a man, that can be very formidable and awesome to another man, another woman, a child, or an animal. So we must remember that we are men and we have that propensity within us and bearing. When I was young in high school, one of my lessons in high school was that there was a girl who had actually trained me in a job when I was at the latter point of middle school, because I got a job as soon as I could in middle school. I had still turned 14 in middle school, where you can work at 14. The first semester of 8th grade, I was already old enough to work and working. And then I had met this girl, and she was a year older, and she trained me there. And then we had a same, I think we had the same homeroom in high school, even though we were of different grades. They had us all the way 9th grade through 12th in the same homeroom. And we were so familiar to the point that she was disrespecting me. And my teacher was like, but you must remember that you're a male. You must always remember that you're a male, and sometimes you don't know your own strength. And sometimes that might be a little bit disingenuous to raise boys like that, as though they don't have the same rights and standing as girls, or they have too much rights and standing, so therefore they must have less rights and standing than a girl. But there was some truth in what he said, and it's probably no less true with men. I was a boy then, but as a man, is that we must remember that we are in fact men, and we have the bearing, but also the being formidable as a man. And we have to sober ourselves with that, especially around other men, women, children, and animals. But there's to that point, I think a man should be, part of being a man is that you should know what you are willing to what you are willing and not willing to do to other people, but also what you are willing and not willing to experience yourself. That should be a thought. So sometimes I had a friend when I was younger, who or a person I knew, who would he would kind of do things like I think they call it virtue signaling, where you take a stance or a outspoken, broad, public stance to defend something, and something of you doing that, it portrays some of your virtue. But this friend of mine actually was virtuous, because he was kind and also formidable at the same time. But something about watching him stand up for different people, it made me think about wanting to do work in the service of some kind. Like I had thought about military, but then also maybe law enforcement. But I'm not willing to lie to people, and I'm not willing to put myself in the situation of being undercover, and then I wouldn't feel righteous or effective. I wouldn't be effective, or I wouldn't want to meet that eventuality is like a fate. I wouldn't want to meet the eventuality of being undercover to some degree, or being and having my cover blown, or just effing over someone that I was getting to know, because I actually get to know people, and whether a person is good or bad, once I start to get to know a person, I start to have love for that person. So I wouldn't be willing to experience that. But the author, the Judge Joe Brown, he's understood a lot of wicked stuff, because he's been a judge for a long time, and he's seen a lot of violent stuff. But he also had some violent experiences in his own house. I think he is, at one time, he experienced armed vandalization in off hours and defended himself. But he's understood a lot of wicked stuff. But he said he wouldn't be willing to drown. That's one thing that he doesn't want to experience, is he doesn't want to drown. And I think we should be aware of different stuff. But one thing I would not want to experience would be to be a small bird, to fall over the tree, and then have some children try to help me. Like, can you imagine some children trying to help a bird fly? That maybe the bird had got hurt, but it actually didn't get injured yet, and now some children are trying to help it fly. Yeah, Mom. So we thought that maybe the reason he couldn't fly is because his wing was we thought if we put his wing on his foot, it would help him fly. But and then we put his other wing on his head, so now he doesn't have wings anymore, but they are on his foot and his head. It's some kids trying to help a bird fly. How brutal would that be? That's one thing I wouldn't want to experience.